Can you guess what the most common answer I get from people when I ask them to explain their crowdfunding campaign is? It's mom. You know what mom stands for? Not talking about your mom or my mom. Mom stands for minutes of mumble. It's absolutely amazing. I'll ask people to explain their project, and they'll start off with something like, I'm doing something that's awesome and it's amazing, and that's wrapped up with paragraphs like, we're going to change the world or make the world a better place, or we're going to disrupt an industry or disrupt the entire planet. Are you kidding me? Oh, and by the way, all of those words and sentences are connected with the word Have we lost our ability to communicate? My gosh. I mean, this is a serious thing. If you're trying to explain your crowdfunding opportunity to me and you can't explain it in a way that's clear and organized without all of this fluffy stuff that people have been saying for the last 10 years, do you know what I'm going to think? I'm going to think that you don't think. If you want to put together really a great presentation, what I call the killer pitch, here's what you do. Number one is your movement. Now, what do I mean by a movement? This is your rallying cry. This is your theme. This is your ice bucket challenge. Now, if you don't understand what an ice bucket challenge is, Google it. Understand that this is something that took the world by storm, that brought people together to focus in on something bigger than themselves. So you've got to have a movement if you really want to have a killer pitch. Number two is a compelling story. A story that can inspire a movement, okay? This is where you explain who you are and why what you're doing is so important. And not so important to the world in general, but so important to the people that you're trying to communicate to that you want to fund your project. The third element for a killer pitch is personal impact. It's very, very important that people that you're communicating with about your crowdfunding campaign can feel you. You've got to be transparent. You've got to be real. You've got to be authentic. Because if you can't do that, people won't trust you. And if they don't trust you, they're not going to get behind you. Remember, people don't so much fund projects, they fund people. Number four is a clear funding target. It's very important that people understand financially what you're looking for and how those finances are going to be used. Once you explain how they're going to be used, it makes people feel more comfortable. And if they feel more comfortable, there's a greater chance they're going to fund you. Number five is a clear call to action. Specifically, you've got to ask people to do something at the end of your messaging. Now, there's two things I always suggest. Number one is you ask them for funding, but number two, you ask for their help. See, a lot of people may not be so interested in funding you, but they might be interested in helping you. And I can tell you psychologically, if you give people a choice between two things, there's a greater chance they're going to choose one of them. And finally, you want to make sure that your killer pitch has exciting and interesting perks. This is really important. Don't just offer people a t-shirt. Offer them a t-shirt that you signed and somebody took you a picture of you signing it. See, when people have an opportunity to take advantage of perks, things they can't buy somewhere else, it entices them and gives them just a little bit more incentive to want to get behind what you're doing. Two other important things about perks. You don't want to have too many and you don't want to have too few. The general industry standard is somewhere between 3 and 8. And by the way, keep this in mind. The most popular now, perk is around $25, but the average perk is around $70. So make sure that you've got perks for those two particular categories, otherwise you might miss a lot of opportunity. Oh, and by the way, there's one other thing I need to mention about the killer presentation, the killer pitch. How do you present that? Here's what you have to understand. Everything that you're communicating to an audience needs to be done three-dimensionally. First of all, we're talking about video. That's very important. Second of all, you want to involve audio components. Now, what do I mean by that? I think it's important to make sure that you've got video and you take the soundtrack and offer that to people, but not just your voice. Anytime you're creating video or creating any type of soundtrack, have background music. It makes a big, big difference. And if you don't think I'm serious about this, you think I'm misleading you in some way, go home, watch television, turn off the volume, and see how important sound is. And the third thing is to make sure that you communicate with text. Now, today's text is really very, very visual, isn't it? Think about how powerful infographics are. Or think about how powerful it would be if you could put a few lines of carefully crafted text underneath a picture. Because as we all know, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So in summary, make sure you take some of my suggestions, apply them to your presentation so that you can have a killer pitch that will not only help your campaign be more successful, but give you the chance of overfunding. And by the way, if this video has been helpful to you and you know somebody that's in a campaign right now or thinking about crowdfunding in the future, please share it with them so they have the chance to overfund as well.